The question is, do we finally get that Yone red side back?
I think they shouldn't do it. I think it's, you know, a reasonable assumption to leave it open and say that Xiaohu, we're not sure that you can actually win on this pick against us. It does guarantee that Knight would have counter pick in mid lane. It does guarantee that he can put that pressure on Xiaohu. And I don't think Xiaohu has really shown us that he is that elite level Yone, and BLG agrees.
Exactly. The last ban of the first half for Waybo will be the Ashe, and the Maokai banned out for BLG means Yone is up in game 1.
Especially when you're able to trade it for things like the Kalista with the Ashe taken away, mega priority on that bottom side, and you can also go for the Skarner. You're already setting up for a great play into this, what's going to be more than likely a dive comp, but it's been getting his Jax
Skarner
first
Jax.
rotation.
It's going to be, yeah, exactly. There it is. As soon as you see the Jax, you know they're not going to give over that Skarner. So the first 2 picks here, massive for BLG, and you can still counterpick mid on 3 if you'd like, and go towards things like even Knight's Ahri that he's so famous for.
And I was also curious to see what the Kalista party was going to be like, because Light has already brought out things like the Caitlyn in this competition, and he's more than happy to go for an answer, but it will be immediately taken here. And now it's a question of, okay, well, Elk, do you want to go back towards something like the Ziggs that we end up running away with in the playoffs, or is it going to be something a little bit more standard?
And also just really want to see, Chris, how are you going to perform in this Renata? Because I was not impressed by his Renata in the quarterfinals at all. He was trying to go for these very kind of like unexpected plays. He was looking for flanks even at time on the Renata, trying to get these ultis in from behind. And he wasn't doing a good job of protecting Light, which is going to be so critical.
All right, over on BLG, it looks like we've got our mid lane answer to that Yone. Remember, this is the same thing that we saw in the 5th and final game between Gen G and FlyQuest. Gen G baiting FlyQuest in to locking that Yone first on blue side, responding with a Smolder of their own, and that's going to be Knight's recipe for success here in game number 1 of this semifinal series.
I want to see what Breed's recipe for success is, though, into this Jax, because he has been most confident on things like the Renekton, the Gnar, and these kind of things, but already Cassante banned away. I imagine we'll get one of those banned away on this following rotation as well. And it feels like you're already on BLG setting up for this big play for being that top side. And when we look back to this matchup in the semifinals of Worlds last year, it was the Shy able to control Bin so well on that top side. Now with the Gnar taken away, how does Breed try to control Bin on his Jax?
I think that's a big question, but also, how can BLG answer what we've seen drafted in the bot lane by Light and Chris? The Ziggs is going to get banned away, one of these neutralizing picks there that would have been pretty powerful for Elk, especially because they already have an AD in the mid lane. And when you look back towards the finals, it was Elk and On that were running this 2v2. They were crushing Light and Chris. Now a lot of key picks have been banned away here from Elk. So they're going to have to problem solve, whether it is going to be a lane swap to try to avoid that 2v2 or something a little bit unexpected to try to draft some power here. The Varus obviously is a strong laner. If you do this alongside another strong laning support, MF another option, those would be the kind of 2 ones that I think you could maybe go head-to-head, at least try to take that 2v2 on.
All right, they're going to spend the whole timer thinking about it, but they will lock in the Varus there for Elk. Immediately, though, look at the numbers at the bottom of your screen. So far at Worlds, it's been a 6-pick champion, 1 win, 5 losses. It hasn't seen much success.
And I think a lot of that has been, there's been so much prevalence of dive, it's very difficult to set up on the Varus and actually have a lot of these auto-attacking champions, but sorry, just get those auto-attacks off. But I do think if you have enough protection here with things like the Skarner, and also potentially something like a Braum for the amount of engage that is coming through, or, you know, disengage that you want, it could work out relatively well here. It would suck a little bit for the laning phase, but afterwards, I think you're in an okay spot.
Poppy seems like a pretty nice pick here. Going to be interesting to see if that is actually jungle or top, though. Obviously, this is still a flex pick, and we have to find out from Waybo what that last lock-in is going to be, and that'll tell us what the lane matchup is going to be.
It does mean you're heavily reliant, though, on Chris to be this big engage, so to kind of send in that ultimate with that. But okay, it's actually going to be the Poppy top, and
Neeko support.
Okay. Neeko support from On, while we'll have the brand jungle for Tarzan, Poppy top for Breathe into Bin's Jax.
I mean, this is going to be kind of a bit of a throwback to previous batches where Tarzan, I think, was playing these AP champions so incredibly well in the LPL. To me, yeah, specifically the brand, he was incredible on it. I think this guy is so flexible. It is one of the advantages that Waybo has, and I thought that advantage had kind of gone away because of the nerf to a lot of these styles of champions. But if you can come out and win with a brand game 1, that does really change things up in Big Bang going forward.
And I think that's the beauty of what we've seen in this meta, is that it feels so series reliant, so team reliant, what you want to try and bring out. And if Tarzan can pop off
matchup against FlyQuest, he was at like 225 stacks about 20 minutes into the game.
It was really fast.
It was so fast, and that really puts the pressure on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the semifinals. We are finally on the Rift for game number 1 in this best of 5 to determine which LPL team gets to represent their region in the World Finals just a week from now. Waybo is defending in their own jungle as BLG doing a little bit of an invade here around the red.
Yeah, it's not 100% guaranteed, but Elk is playing Hail of Blade, so I'm expecting lethality, and I do think this, again, makes sense when you are playing with a secondary AD carry in the mid lane that is going to bring a lot of that consistent damage. And the lethality builds are generally stronger in that lane, in that 2v2 anyway. So with the amount of poke that you're going to have as a lethality Varus, plus on here on this Neeko, you know, getting some early points in that queue, can be pretty difficult, I think, for some of these supports to deal with.
It also just makes it difficult for Waybo to fight for control over mid-wave when it gets to the mid-game. So it gives you the opportunity to just say, hey, look, I'm going to start moving on out and about on the map, influence, like, giving Knight a ton of CS on sides, getting Bin under control. So I think it's just a good call overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially when there's a champion like Brand on the other side, like one piercing arrow plus, you know, a W or something like that from Knight can push him out completely, but we are going to have a lane swap.
Yep, you're going to see the lane swap coming to life now as Crisp and Ben both hanging around the mid lane. And I like the point that you bring up, Azael, about the Brand, because you've got the Brand there, you've got the Renata in the support role. The only person who's able to shrug off these piercing arrows from the lethality Varus is the Poppy. And I feel like these lethality poke builds do feel so good against multiple squishy, viable targets.
Yeah, I think, though, the problem for Brand right now is the quadrants he has access to, because yes, his top side is the 2v2, but Skarner's already stealing away those top side camps. He's going to be able to rotate back down onto this bottom side and even invade on jungle with both Elk and On to support him. So you can see the route that Tarzan's taken. I think he's going to try and very quickly sneak in to get his own camps, but Bin, underneath his own turret, should be okay here.
Yeah, Bin using the counter-strike secures the minion that he needed to get himself level 2 as Crisp will just take a stroll through the enemy jungle as Light keeps the pressure on Bin underneath the tier 1 turret.
Yeah, they could look to try to set up a dive here with Chris coming up, and Bin knows it, so that's why he is backing off, playing this pretty carefully. You know, he is losing out a bit, but at the same time, you touched on it already, Shun was able to get most of those topside camps, and quite a bit of experience was grabbed by Bin. He's already halfway there to level 3, and his bot lane is farming plates down on this bot side, so going to be feeling pretty good overall, even though Bin does get set back. And now seeing the TP go bot, he can actually just walk back up to that wave. Yeah,
and should be able to get a good chunk of it, but it's a very large wave that Breathe is going to be able to get. Already having level 3, has to flash to get towards those minions as well. So Bin actually maybe in a little bit of a dicey position if this poke continues to rain down.
Yeah, Bin hitting level 3 now, has about 400 HP to work with as the plates continue getting knocked away in the bottom lane. BLG's duo having taken the first 2 already, and it looks like the minion wave is going to fall topside before any sort of additional aggression can come through, and BLG just continues keeping that pressure mounting.
And you can see where Skarner's gone. He's already moving down to cover on this bottom side. Will get scuttled for himself. Maybe looking at a dive, but Tarzan has just started to move back up top side. Bin once more, though, should have counter-strike available. I don't think he can go for this. Yeah.
All right, that ruins
Big
everything
mistake.
right there. Light and Crisp, 3 turret shots for nothing. Now we'll see if BLG can get something back on the other side of the map. Breathe, gonna be under a little bit of pressure here. Nice and early, slamming it back into the wall. Sean needs a little bit more damage. Projectile in the air ain't gonna be enough help. Barely survives the turret shot. Shun doing the same. BLG's dive barely fails.
They really wanted Shun to try and tank that underneath the tower, but Elk just couldn't quite get the damage off, and it meant they ended up getting stuck under tower. Now Knight should be able to walk away here.
Let's get hit by the Q3 there from the Yone, which forces the flash over the wall from the BLG mid.
Yeah, he's going to have to flash out. Would love to watch that dive back, because On pulled aggro first, you know, with that Q and held aggro, and then we saw Shun flashing in for the immediate E to stun him against the wall to try to set up for the guaranteed hits there from Elk. But it did feel like On pulled it maybe a little bit earlier than the rest of them were expecting, because the reaction was a bit slow, and it felt like a turret shot or 2 had already gone out before the Skarner really reacted and started off that dive in earnest.
And to be fair, the start was brilliant, like using the clone to pull the wave to get your minions underneath the tower. It looked like it was going to be great, but I agree, it was a little bit messy underneath the tower. And I think all said and done, though, BLG still coming out with a nice lead for themselves thanks to those turret plates. Also, been able to free farm here against Light on that top side means he's actually getting some CS, whereas his Breathe is only really starting to rack them up now.
Yeah, both top laners having the lane swap experience here early on, and with both dives being botched, means we're still staring at all zeros there in the kill columns. 5 minutes in, a little bit over 30 seconds till that first set of grubs spawns, as Shun makes his presence known in the mid lane, but Xiaohu already having the Q3 ready to go can just walk away from
And
it.
it can seem like a small thing in the moment, but I actually think it was such a smart flash from Bin to utilize that flash to save his health to get back towards the tower. And that's one of those things that, yes, there was then that follow-up mistake from Light where he takes those tower shots and that pulls off the dive, but he would not have been able to get that experience. He already was missing his teleport, so he knows getting that XP is so critically important, and that's why he committed the early flash, and I think it paid off big time.
Xiaohu missing the Q3, still trying to trade with Knight here in the mid lane. Level 6 available for the Smolder, but not quite yet on the Yone. You can see the EXP on the side there. Xiaohu just now hitting it.
And no TP on Breathe either, so this is a, can we get quickly one of these grubs for ourselves? Looks like Tarzan should be able to do so as BLG get in, but Waybo just need to disengage from this one.
Yeah, Tarzan's gonna grab that first grub, smites down the second. Actually, 2 grubs over to Waybo. Third one is secured by BLG.
Really nicely done there by Tarzan. He gets multiple of the grubs low. He's able to finish one off without using the smite. Saved the smite for the seconds to steal that away. So now even has an angle at that potential 4, and On's looking.
Yeah, Crisp gets caught there by the Tangle Barb. Shun coming in through the wall. Goes for the Ishtal impact. Light now in a little bit of danger, has to flash away. Xiaohu first his Knight back in the Herald Pit at the same time. That's going to turn into a whole lot of nothing. All right, couple of moves, but nothing really connects.
But Breathe is still pushing in this bottom side, so yes, you do get some of the flashes, but you now need to trade this as BLG on the top end. Tarzan trying to keep Shun away from going for this gank underneath the tower, but I think BLG should be able to crack some of these plates still.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to need to. They were 500 or 600 gold ahead not long ago, and they've actually lost that lead now. Are going to be able to pull it back to parity, but this has been really good for Breathe. It's put him into a much better spot after that rough early game. He's now 300 gold ahead of Bin.
Also, the quick rotation for Light down to this bottom side as well means that as Tarzan, you can already see he's dropping blue, can move over into the spot side. They can look at a dragon pickup as well. So we were talking about looking for these trade back and forths on objectives, but Waybo sneak away 2 early Void Grubs, and now we're in a better position if they want to look towards dragon as well.
Feeling pretty good about it. Faded Ashes for the Brand, Berserker's Greaves for the Yone. The early recalls also pretty much exactly where they would want them here on these champions for Weibo Gaming that want to make sure that they don't fall behind in this early game tempo. Xiaohu again, every time the camera goes over to mid lane, jumping forward with the Soul Unbound, trying to keep the pressure on Knight. Again, answering that call from BLG. Can you play this to a victory?
Exactly, and I think he's doing a pretty good job pressuring Knight so far in this lane. Knight, though, stacking up pretty well. Does have 52 stacks already, and you can see it's double tiers over on the BLG AD carries as they are looking to scale. So I do think everything's still going pretty much according to plan as far as BLG is concerned.
Well, let's see if this goes according to plan here in the bottom lane now. We do have 3 players nearby from Weibo. Tarzan standing by in case they need his assistance here on the dive, but immediately Light gonna have to use the Fate's Call to keep his support alive. Still the pressure from BLG, looking to secure themselves a 4th plate on the tier 1 turret as Bin goes for the teleport back up into the top lane to stop Breathe there.
I was gonna say though, like it's a very early Fate's Call on towards Chris. They hadn't really committed to anything, so BLG just pull away and now should get the plate on this bottom side. Jungler not here though, Tarzan still hovering. I don't think they can really make a play though.
Yeah, I think they just got a little bit nervous because I think Elk hit him with the ulti, and that's what actually prompted that out. Worried about that potential poke down. And BLG spending a lot of time down there, again, means Breathe is getting further ahead. Yes, Bin to TP towards top, but not before he lost an entire wave and another plate went over to Breathe. So Breathe is now at 550 gold ahead in that 1v1. And it's not really because of individual outplays, it's because of the lane assignments, it's because of where they're moving him on the map. And Breathe is just getting the better end of this situation.
Well, BLG, they might not have made the dive work out, but they are going to use the extra manpower they had down here to secure that first Drake for themselves. On doing a good job interrupting some recalls there with the Neeko. And we've still got a very close game in terms of gold.
Yeah, it's just interesting because most of the gold advantage is actually on, right? You know, which is not really where you would want it, but Neeko obviously, you know, can build some carry items here, so maybe more beneficial than it would otherwise be. But you can see Breathe is going, you know, for more of an aggressive build. You know, Sundered Sky is generally the rush for Poppy Top when they do want to go a little bit aggressive. Sometimes people will build multiple aggressive items, but it's almost always just the Sundered Sky into tank. And that can be tough for Jax, really until a couple items into the game, especially when you are at a disadvantage like this. Can be a bit rough.
Well, hey, BLG claiming first turret now. All of that extra pressure on the bottom lane. Even if the dives don't work out, they're constantly making Waybo play on the back foot. They're always crashing the waves. They're always getting the damage on the turret. And that's first turret of the game, just a little bit over 10 minutes in, puts that gold lead back up to over 1,000. But now it's Waybo looking for the second set of grubs. And it looks like BLG's not in a good spot to contest here just yet. The first grub's already going over, and Waybo should guarantee 4, maybe just even the 5, uncontested.
And that's what I think the trade on the tower was. It was, look, you're starting to hit Kalista, who doesn't quite have her first item, but she's incredibly strong. Brand having that level 6 available is so potent as well, so they just back it off. They will rotate to try and protect this top side, but at least you're getting some gold onto Elk so we can complete that first item.
It is scary though, Elk obviously gets that much gold and now he has the opportunity already, so this is a big one item spike here for the Varus. Waybo are going to be having to deal with that. Yeah, you did get the 5 grubs, but the 5 grubs are just the potential of gold to be earned. You have to actually get to the towers and crack some plates to be able to actually make it back. I
think you're also going to have to burn this TP as Breed to get up to that top side so don't crack more of those turrets, because you've got nobody matching here, but still no real TP, so Elk is just going to get to work away here.
All solo gold too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the big advantages that BLG have gotten is they're just putting everything into his pockets. And let's be honest, where else would you want it? Elk has been smurfing this Worlds.
Especially, but I think you're going to look for a potential dive on bot side. Light is now sitting in behind Breathe, trying to set up for some of them, but Bin is giving them a ton of leeway, not wanting to touch it. So yeah, Elk just getting more and more of this gold.
I mean, this guy was insane on the Ezreal. He was insane on the Kaisa. It feels like it's highlight reel after highlight reel after highlight reel from him.
And I think it's incredible to see his journey through. Kind of sound, oh, hang on.
Hold on, we got a bit of a problem over here in the mid lane. Xiaohu trying to flash away and stay alive. Does barely get out there, trying to use the Fate Seal to escape the Skarner, but the Impale was too powerful, so Flash also had to be committed. Waybo keeps their mid laner standing, but the top lane tier 1 turret can't tell the same tale, as Elk is going to collect even more money for himself.
But if you do get the tier 2 tower on bot side, which is likely for Waybo here, they're going to get a ton of gold, like 5 grubs. They demolish that thing, and now trying to protect your side lanes and steady out this game for BLG becomes significantly more difficult when you don't have that tier 2 tower.
Yeah, it's going to make Bin's job incredibly difficult. I mean, he really has been the sacrifice this game, right? They're moving him around, covering lanes. They're not actually covering him on dives, so he's having to abandon the tower very often. Has not been any sort of 1v1 or outplays like that. It's just been the lane assignments, but Breathe is very far ahead. And Bin is going to need to wait to like 2-3 items, very likely, before he can really match up with Breathe in the 1v1.
Yeah, you're looking at individual gold leads in this game right now. The largest one, 1.4K for Elk over Light, but Breathe over Bin is the second highest gold lead going the other direction. This Poppy is feeling great 13 minutes in. We've only got 60 seconds on the clock into the next Dragon fight as well. I'm curious if we get a scrap over.
I think the fact that you're starting to get Elk towards that second item is huge, but after that, he kind of just falls off a cliff. Like, this is Poke Varus. It's not exactly the take over an entire team fight type of champion. So I do think if Waybo are able to play this without him play for team fights, it could be in a great spot. BLG now trying to protect this topside turret. Bin's TP almost up.
Yeah, we've still got 35 seconds left on plates. Waybo would love to grab this 4th one from the tier 1 turret up here on the top side. Shun continuing to try to walk forward here, just force these guys back. The extra damage over time from the grubs continuing to bleed away at those plates, but BLG have enough manpower nearby to just wipe the waves out before anything else can really happen. Nice little bit of damage coming out from Tarzan, but he can't go any further forward. Tarzan and Elk both chunked down to about half HP.
It does cost the cleanse, though, off of Elk. He was playing over vision. Onit's been doing a good job just kind of playing back and forth with him, so he steps forward, he hits that ulti, but they weren't really in position to actually follow up on it. And again, it's Xiaohu farming down in bot lane, and it's Bin who has committed his teleport.
Yeah, Bin committed the TP to mid to force Xiaohu off that mid lane turret, but it meant that then you had to back away as Waybo because Bin could always rotate first to the top side. Now with Rift turret up and available, Waybo's still trying to go. Xiaohu can TP back in, and that's a Blade of the Rune King he's about to finish.
Yeah, the Rift Herald not going to be completed by either side here. One thing I do want to note, remember that in a game of League of Legends, there are 30 turret plates every game? This game had 23 total plates taken. It has been absolute turret crushing from both teams here as the Herald started up by BLG, down to about half health. Waybo still hanging around, seeing if there's any way to challenge. TP coming in. BLG still looking for their moment. Nice shot there. The piercing arrow onto Tarzan. This is what you were talking about earlier, Azael. The ability to chunk the enemy jungler out and make it so difficult to then honestly contest a fight.
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, I think, traditionally Lethality Varus, isn't skilling as well. But when there's squishy targets that have no sustain, it's very, very difficult sometimes. You hit a Q or two on the brand, he can no longer fight. Xiaohu and Light are going to be able to sustain. They're going to be able to, upgrade the Rune King. They're going to be able to heal some of that back up. But it gets very difficult, and I can see a world later on where Elk hits one piercing arrow on Tarzan, Mom gets called from Knight, that hits alone, and then all of a sudden you're at 30%. That's that. You got to leave.
That's 30% more than I was expecting. Now let's see if we got the Rift Herald taken by Waybo before BLG can make their way over here. Shun is nearby. Might try to challenge for the smite, but it doesn't look like there's any chance. Not with Breathe hanging around. Easy, secure. Tarzan's got the smite, and Breathe can eject the Skarner.
And this is the trade on the other side. It's about the push down in bot lane. Bin had shoved that in. He's denying this wave down here from the opposition. He didn't have teleport, so they were never going to fully commit to it. I think they're just trying to keep them honest and say, you need to keep the rest of your team here just in case we were to fight. So they're buying that time for Bin, allowing him to try to claw his way back in.
And again, just kind of buying time for Knight as well to scale up. He's now set off to his side lane to keep himself safe, knowing that Waybo have to go for these resets. So as long as you're able to keep check of Waybo, you're in a good spot as BLG. But with Rift Herald now, they can open up on this mid lane, get another tower for themselves. Top lane tower is a stiff breeze away from falling over, and it means that then suddenly you're playing off of tier 2s and find it difficult to contest these upcoming objectives, and it can get a little bit more difficult for BLG.
Yeah, I agree. It can really get tricky, and we'll see. One of the things, though, definitely working for BLG is the fact they took these couple early dragons, so if they want to play it slow, Soul is not forever. Weibo
20 minutes away.
Exactly. Weibo doesn't have a way to say, you must come and fight us, besides the Baron, which is, of course, way riskier than just being on a Dragon Soul where you're not taking so much damage from the objective. So if they feel like, you know what, we're not ready to fight, Bin's just going to go to the side lane. Knight's going to go to the side lane. They're going to keep pushing waves, keep farming and farming and farming until they feel they are prepared. So it's going to be on Waybo to try to force their hand here a bit, I really feel, and put them in a spot where they're finding picks or they're forcing plays that BLG have to respond to.
And that's where I think the downside of their composition is. It's really difficult for them to force plays. Tarzan isn't on an engaged champion. Crisp isn't on an engaged champion. You only need Light to fling Crisp in to start a fight, but if he's got to contest mid-wave, how the hell do you get in? So I think this is where it gets difficult for Weibo Gaming to push the game forward, and I actually think this is where BLG, having this Smolder kind of correctly identified, that Weibo are going to struggle a bit here.
We are now 30 seconds past the point of this being the latest first blood at this tournament. We are 17 and a half minutes into the game, still no deaths on the board, and Weibo are just looking to continue to farm more turrets instead of champions. It's been an objective-focused game as Weibo lead turrets 3-2 and now have a 4-man push up here towards the tier 2 and top side.
Look, I'm not fully surprised. Chris was involved in the longest first blood ever in the LPL. Might as well bring it to Worlds as well. But Mom called, wave cleared, and it looks like Weibo going to back away here.
Bin down again on bot side. This is what I'm talking about. They're just going to keep trading. We'll see if Breathe can do anything about it, but Bin likely to be able to just walk this one out and is going to be in a good position. That gold lead is going away that Breathe had. He's only 200 gold up now after the tier 2 gold all goes into Bin pockets. Elk's going to take the tier 1 mid as well. So the gold very, very close. It's really where they want it, and they've just been buying so much time. Like when you talk about a really, really slow game, the one champion that always comes to everyone's mind in pro play is, I wish I had a Smolder. Yeah. One team does.
Smolder, Nasus, just put all the stackies everywhere,
man. It's 20 minutes in, you haven't fought yet. Who do you want? Smolder.
Well, he's also about 50 stacks away from hitting that critical point. I mean, at this rate, we might have him hitting his execution threshold before we get an honest-to-God team
Maybe that's
fight.
First Blood. That's how they do it.
That's I will cringe.
Flowers just got the faraway look. He's like, not like this.
That should not be the state of the game. We'll see.
That's the spike they need for First Blood, baby.
If Waybo can accelerate this any bit further. One important purchase, always keeping my eye on these whenever I see them. The QSS picked up for Xiaohu. Does not want to get locked up. Does not want to get punished. Nice damage from Elk. He just shot him straight to hell. Crisp is down. BLG with a nice pick from their AD carry to get on the board.
I mean, that's 2 items completed there for Elk. He hits everything onto Crisp, and that guy is squishy. Deletes him off the map. It's a solo kill from a 2-item Varus, 19 and a half minutes into the game for First Blood.
Of course. It was the only way it could have gone. You know?
How did we not predict
That was
it?
insane.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is exactly the problem now, is like, as you try to contest mid-wave against this Varus, it is incredibly difficult to do so. And it's just given time for Knight to really pop up. And when you look towards like Knight and Xiaohu, like this has kind of been the talking point for a lot of this series, is how important it is for both of these mid laners to kind of get one up, both seeking their first Worlds title, both trying to kind of take that mantle as the GOAT when it comes towards LPL titles, when it comes towards the opportunity to have like most successive finals in a row. It's 6 for both of them right now. There's a lot on the line here.
There absolutely is, and I have really felt like Knight doesn't really get the respect that he deserves. Even in the LPL, you know, they did the official voting for the LPL. Over 300 people voted on this that work on the LPL. They're in the LPL community. Knight was not even listed in the top 10 players all time for the LPL, yet he is tied for or holding many LPL records. And I feel like the only thing he really is missing to finally get some of that respect is a world championship.
And I think it's kind of a similar story for Xiaohu, right? Like, this guy was under the shadow of Uzi for so long, but so many of his accomplishments have come when Uzi left, when you look at those international titles, and he's been absolutely incredible. Also, just kind of falling prey to people like Clearlove and Neeko, who people often look at as the best players in the LPL because they have some of those titles that Xiaohu doesn't.
Okay, Shun tried to tunnel through the wall there, see if he maybe could have been able to catch Breathe out. We are at our third Drake of the game, spawning now. BLG with a very slight gold lead. Everybody's got all their summoners ready to go. Neither Crisp nor Elk had to use one in that mid lane pick, and now BLG on the retreat.
QSS
as
gone.
Waybo pushes up. QSS is gone, so is the Fate sealed, and Bin is on the flank. BLG holding their line just fine for now. Not really under a whole lot of extra pressure, I would have to think. As On continues disguising himself, throws out the Tangle Barbs, ain't gonna find anything with that. BLG continuing to just play this very safe, very careful. Another little bit of snot coming out from the Smolder there. The poke trying to whittle away at Waybo here a little bit as Mom roars in. Not a whole lot more to find. Breathe still taking a little bit more poke damage now here too. Waybo still hanging around, but not winning out in these smaller trades.
But Jax is now trying to circle in around them. That's why Waybo were so hesitant to try and engage. The Jax had disappeared at bot. Now he's on, pushing that wave once more. And Waybo, they need to make a call, but the lack of engage again is hurting them. The poke from BLG is insane.
And it's 220 stacks on Smolder right now. This champion is about to take over to superpower as BLG continue just shooting the poke back at Waybo. Shun now going to trade a little bit with Xiaohu, who has to reset. There with the soul unbound. Now you're going to have a TP coming in from Waybo, ready to keep this one going. Breathe has made his way into the fight. The Dragon's down to half HP. Breathe jumps in, tries to tackle On, but it ain't going to do a whole lot just yet. Ben's still looking for the angle. Nice ejection onto the Skarner. They're trying to control the Drake. Breathe still in the front line. Drake to about 1,000. It's going to be slain by Xiaohu as now Waybo continue their push forward. BLG falling back as the hostile takeover doesn't do a whole lot. You've got Ben in the back line, but he ain't going to be able to do anything in a 1v3. Waybo take him out, and they want even more. A shutdown over the light as the Kalista claims a second. Shun, Elk, and On all trying to escape as Tarzan's looking to burn down the AD carry. Elk will continue whittling away. And the Reentries takes his soul. Waybo 4-4-0.
Waybo needed something desperately in this game. It was starting to slip away from them. But not only do they get the Dragon, they can turn over towards the Baron as well. This is such a massive swing.
It's huge for Waybo. Ben had the flank, but he got absolutely nothing done. They just turn on him. They kill him off incredibly fast. He got no damage done, and they're losing the fight on the other side as well. On was never able to find a way in here, never able to even use the ulti. The Neeko got nothing done, and they weren't able to create that space for their AD carries to get the work done.
And that's why I was actually nervous for Waybo. This fight lasted so long. Elk's ult came back up off cooldown. And I was like, okay, well now Bin has a flank, but Waybo played into this choke incredibly well. Breathe jumping on towards On meant that On couldn't actually go forward. They get the knockout on the jungler. And then Xiaohu has been criticized for this Yone, but it was crucial here. He forces Elk back, keeps people out of position, and it means that they're able to turn around back on towards Bin and deal with him.
Exactly, and by the time Bin actually arrived, Xiaohu is snapping back. Tarzan is still there defending him, and BLG has collapsed on the other side. Waybo don't have great ways to engage, but they just force their hand. It's Breathe, it's Xiaohu going into the back line, pushing back these AD carries while they don't have the formation around them. And On was so low on health and so out of mana, it felt like before the fight even started.
I don't even feel like there was a backline in that fight, considering Bin was on the flank, and then Shun just gets poppy yeeted all the way back into his own jungle. No chance for BLG to try to fight back. And there's your team fight damage. You can see tons of damage meters spiking up for both sides, but it's still Waybo coming out on top. It's Waybo now with a 3,000 gold lead, and Baron for the next minute and 45, pushing towards the tier 2 here in the top lane, while Xiaohu splits over in mid.
And this is desperately needed for Waybo, because trying to get access to these towers is incredibly difficult. As Bates call used there, Elk has been focusing down Crisp so often, trying to pop this support.
Yeah, just looking for these squishy targets, and Tarzan has been playing so far back, he hasn't really been able to get to him. There we go!
Flash for the counter-strike. They're going in after Xiaohu. The Impale doesn't find the target. Xiaohu's getting away, but Bin looks to keep on chasing. The second counter-strike will not find the stun, but Xiaohu has already used the Soul Unbound. He has to reset his position. He's going right back to where he started. I don't know if you even needed the Pop Blossom there. That felt excessive, but the point was made. Now Light trading with Knight as another piercing arrow flies through the sky. Chris tries to keep his AD carry protected, but BLG aren't done. Skarner throws a rock, but it misses, and BLG will settle for the single kill.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get that kill onto Xiaohu. Looked like he might have even like pre-QSS the Counter-Strike. The timing on that looks sick from him, but still can't buy enough time for the rest of Waybo to get over there to try to bail him out. And now, you know, you look at where the gold is, it's really all about Tarzan. So BLG are going to try to fight away from this brand. If he cannot be a part of the fight, you still have great opportunities. And Knight now, 260 stacks at this point. He's going to go past that. Once he gets towards the rapid fire, that is where it becomes a bit of a nightmare.
But crucially, the Baron is now gone. That Red Bull Baron power play, you can see 20 seconds left on it. They don't crack mid-tier 2. They don't crack top tier 2. And this makes it easier for BLG again to just try and slow down the pace of this game. Get Bin into a position where he hits level 16, ticks over towards more items. Knight continues to stack, and that is perfect for BLG.
I just feel like as long as BLG can hold their battle lines, not overcommit to a fight, not give an easy angle for an engage, Varus is going to keep poking.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to have Neeko continually poking. We're going to have the rapid fire eventually completed, and Knight is going to be continually poking. And it's going to be so frustrating to deal with that on the Waybo side because you don't have that rally, you don't have the Alistar, you don't have the instant go button. They kind of have to give you a bit of an angle, or they're just going to be slowly whittling you down.
And I think that's why we can see the redemption starting to be built by Crisp, realizing, hey, I desperately need to deal with this poke. But the longer, as it says, it goes on, you then just get more of like the burn coming through from Smolder, the execution threshold going to be great. You've got 3 items now on towards Knight. He has just crested into the godhood that Smolder offers. So I think for these upcoming fights, especially at the Dragon in 15 seconds, it is going to be tough for Waybo to fight.
But we do have a lot of powerful defenses on the side of Waybo. The Fimbulwinter, fully evolved for Breathe for the spammable shield. Seeker's Arm Guard for Tarzan is a huge one. Mikhail's Crucible on Crisp to get rid of some more of that engaged CC potential on BLG's side. But now Waybo's coming around as BLG will have to retreat. Crisp looking to find the collapse here. Xiaohu wanted to go for the angle, but he ain't gonna get it. BLG continuing to exit to the left, making their way back up into the top side of the map.
Yeah, Xiaohu, you know, tried to come in, and Crash looked for the flash handshake, but couldn't get it. Forced the flash out from Knight, so that is going to be down, and that could be critical. Maybe they can find an angle with the flash from Breathe or something on tonight.
But that's the Poppy ult down from Breathe, just to protect the tier 2 top and the reset from Breathe coming in for its potential to come into this. But Waybo, they've already snuck away the Dragon. BLG just couldn't get in.
Nicely done from Waybo, now fate sealed. Xiaohu wanted to go in on Elk. Instead he gets slammed back into the ground with a Pop Blossom, and now the Impale's gonna drag him back a little bit further, but no! Yone escaped. Xiaohu does not take enough damage to face death there. The mid laner wanted to go for the hero play on Elk. Yes, he will get both of the BLG AD carry summoners, but neither one falls.
And not able to quite have enough damage to actually finish him off, and Elk survives on the other side. But as you say, both his summoners are gone. They forced Knight's flash in that last one. Xiaohu's going to have flash, and there's going to be no summoners available for either of the BLG AD carries.
But Matt, this is one of the closest games we've seen between these two teams all summer long. Waybo are putting up an incredible fight, and the fact that they are able to go toe-to-toe consistently, match on these tempo plays, which they just completely fell behind on in playoffs, is incredible to see. Waybo are stepping up here. I
agree. I mean, we were talking about this morning when we were talking about this series. We went back and watched a lot of these games. In those 6 games they played in playoffs, 3 of them were 25-minute BLG wins. You know, BLG was very dominant in many of those games, but Waybo absolutely going toe-to-toe with them here. They've evened out the Dragons. They obviously still have that grub advantage, and the gold is in their favor.
You watched games from this year, but did you watch anything that happened to be played in Busan, Korea about a year ago from now?
I may have.
Yeah. A little bit of take from that.
But who was the mid laner for BLG? It wasn't Knight.
Hey, all I'm saying is Waybo
Flowers.
has made it happen before, and now they are starting up the Baron. They're burning it down, but not super fast just yet. BLG is close enough to try to contest here. Ben gonna have to try to jump away there with the counter strike as Waybo just hard engages onto Ben. The zone used to try to keep himself alive, and the flash back away to escape the follow-up damage. Waybo's attempt on Ben, it takes all their manpower, so they can't finish the Baron.
But they're also taking a lot of poke, and Bin can TP in. Xiaohu trying to make a play to keep them in check, but
Shun could be in a little bit of trouble now. Has to use the E-Stall impact, slam breathe into the wall, and continue making his own escape. Now Tarzan's got to be careful on continuing
Bin's
to
back.
try to push him back now as well. Bin has made his way back into the fight. Stuns up Xiaohu. The counter strike is there. Fate Seal to try to get away, but no! Elk snipes him down. Bin's going to keep on looking for even more as Shun goes in for an ice impale. Now On's going to be killed off as well. Crisp drops on, and the rest of BLG all still alive. Everybody from Waybo that's still standing is in retreat with Xiaohu and Crisp down. It's a 5-man BLG play for the Baron.
It's a long back and forth fight, but BLG do take it. They're going to TP back in, though. Breathe wants to make some magic happen.
Breathe is going to try to pull off some kind of a miracle here. So much control over the Baron pit for BLG, and Waybo slipped up pretty big.
it was just that one moment BLG needed to get back into this game. You try and take the Baron, they try to turn on towards Bin, but he's just so slippery, and that Seeker's arm guard was clutch, because as you start to move in, actually this is later on, but afterwards BLG, they just know they've got the poke and the chase down. Bin TP's in for a great flank onto Xiaohu. They managed to finish him off with a great hit from Elk as well. And Waybo, they're just on full retreat. There's nothing they can do. Even Crisp getting caught out at the last second with no Fate's Call to keep him safe.
Yeah, Shun's able to get in there. He forces the flash out and catches the support with the same flash ulti. That was massive from him. Elk, of course, nailing arrows over the wall. BLG just putting that pressure on. The long drawn-out fights are so difficult for Waybo because there's so many more poke tools, so many ways to whittle you down. And now the Baron buff is there. The wave clear pretty weak overall from Waybo. Tarzan's going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, or this could be rough.
All right, Tier 2 turret under pressure. BLG looking to build as much with this Baron as they can. But Xiaohu is on the flank. Breathe looking for maybe an engage here, but he won't find it. Waybo still trying to find their way in as On's going to be your target. Goes into the Pop Blossom for the counter engage. Xiaohu's low, but he snaps back after grabbing the first kill. Now Breathe has to try to escape, but the hostile takeover over the wall is stopping BLG's advance. Waybo has not lost a man, but they're at critically low health. Shun, Bin, and Knight, all still looking. Big piercing arrow yet again. Another force of the Fate's Call. Light has to save Crisp.
Yeah, Waybo have to run, but On got betrayed by that blast cone. I think it was maybe Elk that knocked him in and ended up getting him killed. But at the end of the day, it's still BLG with the bigger health bars.
Hashtag worth. You know, it worked out well. You sacrifice yourself, but we crack the base. It's a handshake deal that BLG will take every single time.
And the AD carries mine. Nothing of value is lost.
Exactly.
Just the support.
As a support player, I know that too well.
Meanwhile, down here in the bottom lane, you can see that Tier 3 turret collapsing there to the minion wave. So now it's both bases having been cracked open after that sequence of plays. Yeah. Neither inhibitor taken, and now the Drake is live. Tied up 2-2 now. We'll see which team can hit Soul Point off of this one. You do have On back alive. Everybody still trying to keep these lines held as we approach this 5th Drake. Bin, the bottom part of the river. BLG still got to make sure they don't get caught out here. Knock up onto Elk, who has to try to continue getting away from Breathe. Pop Blossom, but it misses everybody. Xiaohu has already used the Soul Unbound, and Mom roars over the wall, finds a little bit of damage onto 2, but it ain't a whole lot. Waybo forced back, but honestly still pretty high on health. Knight and Bin DPSing the Drake. Crisp takes a massive chunk of damage, and Waybo have to be so careful about this now. Knight flaps back over the wall as the Cloud Drake is secured by Elk and BLG. Waybo continuing to try to get themselves back away from an advancing BLG. Xiaohu engages, he goes after On, He finds plenty of damage, but the kill isn't going to happen just yet. Now with the stasis coming out from On, he survives for long enough for the two-man impale, but there's no further dividends being paid. Bin now in the stasis trying to get away as Waybo continue pushing towards the BLG top laner. He goes back in for the counter-strike, but it does not matter. Light takes him down, and Waybo's already found 2 kills. It'll be traded back finally for 1 as Knight kills Breathe.
The fight from BLG was so separated. On gets caught, but Bin dives in the second he does. They just don't have the damage to try and finish off the Weibo members that are in front of them. So Weibo get the kill lead. They break a tower as well, and they're showing that they are not out of this game yet.
I mean, so much credit to Xiaohu and Breathe. They have a very difficult game to play here where they have to work as the primary engage. They're making it happen. It's scrappy, but it's being pretty effective.
Especially for Xiaohu on a champion he's been criticized on this summer. Yone was not his pick, it was the banana combo, but he is diving in onto BLG so effectively, having great moments to understand when he needs to pop back, hopping in onto kill On, but you can see here BLG just don't have the damage to kill Breathe. The fact that the Yone's gone backwards means that they're able to turn on towards Bin as well, and Bin just doesn't have the damage to take on Weibo.
No, and I mean, in a number of these fights, we're seeing Bin on kind of a little of these solo missions, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's over there without the support of the rest of his team, and it's just not going to work out. It cost him his flash, it cost him his Zhonya's, and he ends up going down anyway, as he couldn't take down Tarzan, didn't even get Tarzan's flash either, and gives up both those key abilities.
And it's what you were talking about back at the beginning of the game, back in draft too, Azael. This hasn't felt like raid boss Bin at this Worlds like we've seen in the past. This game as well, back at the beginning, back during the lane swap, being set behind. Yes, he's done a good job coming back into the game. Yes, he's now 1,500 gold ahead of his lane opponent in Breathe, but still not finding those angles, not being that huge X factor. It's night and day. Now, a nice pick coming out from BLG. Huge kill onto Tarzan as Knight's now got to try to escape. Xiaohu snaps back, but is it going to be enough? The bailout might just get him out of danger. Elf's going to be killed off. Xiaohu lives, and immediately Waybo are fighting right back. Chris drops. Knight kills him, but Bin has to go golden to barely stay alive. Knight needs a little bit more damage. Pop Blossom to lock up the enemy top laner. A double kill of the Knight, and Smolder has scaled redemption to try to keep Xiaohu and Light standing.
Smolder is flapping all over Weibo Gaming right now. Very lucky that he didn't manage to get over that wall, because that could have been several more dead members of Weibo Gaming, but Xiaohu is trying so desperately to claw these fights back, but it's so difficult when the Smolder is this strong.
It is really, really hard. I mean, he's got the Leandries done now at this point. It's a great pick from Shun, comes over the wall there. They're able to catch out the brand. The ult from Elk is there to follow it up. Xiaohu's trying to turn this around, and the bailout does make a bit of magic happen.
Huge.
They had the Mikhails as well on one of the stuns there. Xiaohu barely survives.
Yeah, the sidestep from Knight at the start of that fight was so crucial, because otherwise that could have been the Smolder down, and then Weibo, the rest of them show up and they can barrel over BLG, but once more, Knight stepping up, just barely getting away.
I mean, these long extended fights are just getting harder and harder and harder. The Leandries is in, the W poke becomes that much more threatening here. You're applying that with the Q and the damage stacks for a burn. Weibo said, we've had enough, we need to fight, it's not gonna get better.
Okay, we're going to Baron yet again. Knight and Elk with the poke for the side of BLG, but Xiaohu forcing the flash over the wall from On, who has to try to regroup with the rest of the team. He's down to 40% HP. He's not looking too good. Weibo still with health bars topped off, but Bin is pushing in the bottom lane the entire time. Weibo, if nothing else, has to get the teleport out of the Jax. Baron down to half HP. BLG still poking. Shun goes in, finds a slam into the wall, and now the damage is going to focus on Breathe and Crisp. On still staying alive defensively as Tarzan secures the Baron. BLG is trying to keep everybody close by. A nice impale over the wall comes out from Shun to lock up Light. Now they're going to be able to find the kill on Xiaohu. Now they're going to finish another one there on Light. Weibo may have claimed the Baron, but what about the game? Tarzan's going to try to keep running as Bin has broken the base in the bottom lane by the time Breathe and Crisp can respond.
Weibo barely get back in time to stop Breathe there.
Yeah, barely in time, and now Dragon Soul's gonna be spawning here in 20. Xiaohu's dead for 40. Light's dead for 40. They just want to try to end the game right here, right now.
BLG know that Xiaohu and Light, so much of the damage on Waybo, dead for the next 35 seconds. BLG making their push. That mid lane inhibitor still vulnerable from the tier 3 turret that was taken earlier. BLG is gonna knock that one over, and the first super minion marches down the bottom lane. Breathe, trying to get past them to cut the minion wave and save the game. Just buy enough time. Breathe, still walking away, but the mid lane wave is crashing the Nexus turrets. Now Tarzan's under pressure as Ben zones him off. BLG trying to force the end of the game. 5 seconds left on the mid and AD carry of Waybo, but it will not matter. BLG take game 1.
What a back and forth battle here between BLG and Waybo. At the end of the day, it is another BLG win, but damn did Waybo make him work for it.
That was not what I expected at all coming into game number 1. Waybo showed up big, and BLG, I think they're sweating after that one.
It was a battle back and forth, even if it was a slow burn to get going. The first match in this hopefully 5-game series is out of the way now. But a reminder, you can dominate the Rift with